Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Jason Schley. Appreciate you all showing up and coming to this event. Sean Nettleton's going to be talking about the 5 stages. And I also want to just invite you guys to join into our social. We've got basically in-booth meetings every 20 minutes, basically, or on the hour every 20 minutes. So if you can find our booth, we've got breakout topics, including nitrogen use efficiency, just overall agronomic tools. We won't be talking about products, just pure agronomics. So again, thanks for coming. Sean Nettleton, roll it.
Buddy. All right. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm excited to kick this off. My name's Sean Nettleton. I'm a technical agronomist with BW Fusion. If you see me going for the water, I woke up this morning a little bit under the weather. So if I go for the water, that's what's going on. So I'm glad we can kick this off. I was surprised to see as many people in this room as there is. So let's buckle in. I've never stood still an entire day in my life. So I'm shoving all these chairs in because I'm going to use every square inch of this stage because that's just the way I roll. So for those of you that may not know, who is BW Fusion? Well, BW Fusion is a leading end-to-end manufacturer of crop nutrition and biological products. We create data-verified solutions that are customizable to meet the needs of our customers today and tomorrow. So that's what we do, right? So here's a little bit more about us. We recently had a survey done of 500 growers. We kind of wanted to see where we were, in the big picture. There's a lot of companies, there's a lot of folks in our space, right? So in a recent study of over 500 growers, we came out on top with the best in class across the board. And here's what growers said we were really good at. Proven results with Agronomy 365. That's our platform where we take and we empower you guys to prove our products, and we use that to prove our products, whether that's soil, tissue data of the like. Soil benefits, building healthier, more productive soils, because I think that's what we're all interested in, right? We all want healthier, more productive soils, brand strength, and basically that's just name recognition. That's people figuring out who we are. Agronomy expertise. I'm going to be biased here. I'm just one of the many wheels in the cog. Our agronomy team's in the back, but I have no qualms saying it. Best agronomy team in the business. Work with us and you'll find that out. Sales team support. I don't want to leave those guys out because our RBMs, a lot of those folks are here today. RBMs across the United States, and I'll put them up against anybody. We outcare the competition. That's our gig. And then product innovation. We're trying to build solutions for every stage, every season, and that's what we're going to talk about today. So that is the BW Fusion difference. Let's dive in to the meat and potatoes of this. We want to talk about the 5 stages of success, all right? So again, there are tons of companies in this space that we're in. Every company here has got something that they can sell you to bolt on to something that you're already doing. We kind of want to approach that a little bit differently. We want to approach it from a perspective of we want to build you a system from beginning to end. This is how you use our products. This is where they fit in. This is the timing where you're going to use them to do specific things throughout the growing season. So that's the 5 stages of success in a nutshell. They're set up, establish, create, refuel, and move. And we're going to dive into those 5 stages right now. So basically, we look at this as our roadmap to superior crop performance, right? So cutting edge crop nutrition system crafted from analyzing thousands upon thousands of acres of data through that Agronomy 365 system that I mentioned earlier. The beginning stage powered by Baseline RX and tailor-made for growers who are dedicated to achieving a couple things. We want long-term soil health. That's what we all want. Whether or not soil health is a buzzword, we all want to leave the soil better shape than what it was when we took it over, right? That's our goal. It's everybody's goal, whether we get on board with all the buzzwords. We all want to increase yields. I don't know a single person who's going to raise their hand and say they don't want their yields to go up. We want to make more money. And we want that superior crop performance because the healthier our crops are, the higher the yields are going to be. Now, I put this slide in every slide presentation that I've done since I've worked at BW Fusion. So for 4 years, every time I've got in front of one person and made a presentation, they've seen this picture right here. I can talk the rest of the time that I have with you about this one slide because this is what we're about. We're about plant and soil synergy. All the way since the beginning of time, the plant has been designed to feed the soil and the soil has been designed to feed the plant. When we use those two things together, we maximize productivity. So you think about this. Every corn plant, every soybean plant, wheat plant, cotton plant, doesn't matter what you grow, every one of those plants is a solar factory. It's producing sugars, right? It's capturing sunlight, creating sugars, giving some of those sugars back to the soil to stimulate that soil, to stimulate the microbes in that soil. And those microbes, when they're stimulated, they release nutrients back to that plant. It's the way the soil, it's the way Earth was designed to function, and we're trying to maximize that and find ways to do that better. Think of it like a fence row, right? Everybody talks about that. You take a fence row or you take CRP acres out and you see a difference in growth than from our conventionally tilled and our conventionally farmed acres. So think about it from this perspective. So stage one, guys, this is just like building a house. It's the setup stage. When you build a house, you put a foundation under it. When they built this convention center that we're in, I would hate to know how many feet of concrete are underneath this building to hold this building up. Plants are no different. We have to set the setup stage. We have to set the foundation of building a resilient and profitable crop. We don't get to go at, like, say at Tassel and say, man, this crop looks really good. I'm going to go back to the beginning. I'm going to fix the mistakes that I made at the beginning. We don't get to do that. We have to fix those from the get-go. So this is the foundation of a resilient, profitable crop, pinpointing strengths and weaknesses and laying the groundwork for a successful season. So the big thing here is nutrient cycling. And why does that matter? Because we want to maintain that optimal nutrient balance in the soil to ensure plants have the right nutrients available right away. If we get off to the good start, we have healthier plants, better yields, and reduce our dependence on fertilizers to increase our ROI. Now, I just said reduce our dependence on fertilizers. That doesn't mean that I'm telling you that work with us and we're going to no more fertilizer. You won't need it. It's the opposite of that. We want to look at what the soil can provide and what we need to supply and look at those two things together. It's a symbiotic relationship. It's not one or the other. So things we do in the setup stage, baseline RX. I did this talk right here last year about baseline RX and dove deep into it. It's our comprehensive zone soil sampling and fertility management tool because I can't build the foundation, I can't start at the beginning if I don't know what the soil can provide me. Excuse me. Then there's Meltdown. Meltdown's a tool to turn residue into revenue. That's a tagline. Essentially, it's using biologicals to take that crop residue, break down those cellulose and those lignins, those complex carbons that are in that residue, and release those back. Biology in the soil feed on carbon. We're trying to make simple carbons for biology and release the nutrients that are in that residue to release those back. And BioCast Max. It's another product we have. It's another biological product. And essentially, it's a combination of Meltdown and another team of our biology to capture plant nutrients from the atmosphere, soil, convert them into plant-available nutrients for that plant to thrive and grow on. So let's talk a second about baseline RX. I'm not going deep because I don't have the time, but the idea here is the key factors are it's where we apply, where we pull our samples determines the availability of that nutrients to us. So the first thing we do is we start out building zones. We don't believe in a grid system because a grid commingles too many different factors in the soil. So we use simple layers. Soil type, soil texture. A topography layer and an elevation layer. The elevation layer is used to create the topography layer so that we can know where water's going to, when it rains, the water's going to start here, where does it end up? The sides of the hills, the bottom of the valleys, where your water's running to and where it's running from. Those are going to determine the factors that are important for determining where to pull soil samples to better understand nutrient availability. Because I want to see something like this. Essentially, when we have zones, our zone ones are always going to be the tops of the hills, the eroded knolls, the low organic matter soils. The zone fives are always those depressions, the lowest areas in the fields, generally the highest organic matter, generally the wettest areas of the farm. But the thing that's important, and I challenge every person that works with us that goes out and pulls samples, whether it's a farmer pulling them for himself or whether it's a service provider pulling that for the farmer, take a picture of that soil when it's collected. Because if you see a grid sample, I promise you, if you've got variability in your soils, you'll see different colors in that one grid box. I want the differentiation. You can see a sand soil here to a heavy clay almost a muck soil. I want to see that variability, and when we're done pulling samples, I want to come and see, when we're talking over the results, and I want to show that to you because I want you to see the difference. At the end of the day, we're going to give you a soil test that's got 80+ metrics on it. We're not talking 10 or 12 metrics, we're talking 80 metrics. We're using the Haney extraction for plant available nutrients. We're looking at the total pool of nutrients because we want to digest that soil, and we want to know how much total phosphorus, how much total potassium is in that soil, plus a standard extraction. We want to truly identify the limitations of our soil. And if you want to learn more about this, the guys at our booth are happy to dive into one of these samples with you. So let me go to stage 2. We've set the foundation, we've built the base for our season, then we've got to establish that crop, right? So these are the key processes that ensure early crop success, like the initiation of seed germination, nutrient availability, seeding vigor, all those different things. We get one chance, right, to create that best plant. This is our place to do that. And so we're going to use the tools like BioBoost. BioBoost is our brand new, groundbreaking planter box treatment available for corn and soybeans today. BioCast Max, I mentioned that in the first one. But again, if we want to make nutrients available, we can do that in this established phase. We can help with germination and help with emergence. Environoc 401 is a component of BioCast Max. Seed treatment is a biological seed treatment that we put right on the seed to get that biology, to get that seed to soil initiation happening right at the beginning. And then we've got another product called Amino, essentially amino acids that improve crop health and production during and after stress events. Guys, germination and emergence is a stressful event. And if we can help mitigate some of that stress, we can improve that emergence. So just real quick, BioBoost corn. We've got our data compiled from last year, 93 corn trials from out of the United States, an average of 6.2 bushel increase. Something that we do at the very beginning of the season, driving yield gains at the end, is huge. But at the end of the day, I'm still just interested in that establishment. If you look at that picture, you can see that's untreated versus treated plants. You're seeing that stem diameter difference. We're trying to build that foundation. The bigger that stem diameter is, the more nutrients we can move. The bigger, think about it like a highway. If you want to move your grain down a rutted dirt road, or do you want to move your grain down a 6-lane highway? Same with nutrients. The more lanes we have, the more nutrient uptake and movement we have. And then BioBoost soybean, 54 trials, an average increase of 3.62 bushels. Here's the thing, guys, when it comes to soybeans, we're not trying to drive growth. It doesn't matter if it's corn, soybeans, neither of these products are trying to make you have a big showy plant. We want to build a short, stocky plant. Short, stocky plants stand better. They have bigger stem diameters. And so, net ROI on this, $22 to $27 an acre from what we've seen this year. Huge start. Stage 3. Now we've got to establish the foundation for optimal photosynthesis, ensuring plants have the right system in place to function efficiently during rapid growth stages. So why enhancing photosynthesis matters? This is a big one, because everybody talks about roots, but what really drives roots? Sugars drive roots. Rooting only occurs because of sugar. This stage increases sugar production, supports biological activity in the rhizosphere, and positively impacts grain size and water extractable organic carbon. You remember when I said we want to break down those residues because the biology feed on carbon? We're after water extractable organic carbon. We're after small carbon that microbes use to feed and grow. And ultimately, we want to turn that plant. We're transitioning from the foundation. We've built the plant. Now we're going to get that factory going, right? Because we started with the foundation. We've got it built. Now we want to turn the machines on that are doing the job. And we want to enhance photosynthetic activity. So the products that we're going to look at there from this create stage is our Full Sun product and our Relax RX product. So let's dive in. I talked about the stem diameter. When we increase that stem diameter, we can move more sugars. And when we move more sugars, we release more nutrients from the soil. Like you can have a conversation about wanting to raise a profitable, lower yielding crop, but at the end of the day, who really wants to do that? Because the higher yielding crop, the healthier the crop we grow, the more sugars we put into that soil, the more we increase soil health. So, in fact, higher yielding crops create healthier soils. Think about it from that perspective. So we want to drive this piece because the things that we do in stage 2 and 3 are increasing roots and stem diameter. That's what we're about. So with a product like Full Sun, why was it created? Full Sun was created as a product that has every nutrient involved in photosynthetic activity to maximize that activity, increase photosynthesis. I love this product. This product is close to my heart because this was developed internally, essentially by looking at soil and tissue data. What does our plants tell us they're lacking? Most of the time, our tissue tells us, especially early, that our plants are lacking at least one or some of the nutrients that are involved in the photosynthetic process. I want to maximize photosynthesis. We want to improve photosynthesis because the more photosynthetic activity we have, the more sugar we create. The more sugar we create, the more we drive to the roots. The more we drive to the roots, the more we stimulate that soil. So we're supplementing here. This isn't just about supplementing a micronutrient. This is about supplementing a physiological process. The next step, Relax RX. What about stress? Anybody here's crops ever go through stress? You don't have to raise your hand. We all know this is true. Heat stress, water stress, too much water, not enough water, too hot, too cold, herbicides, you name it, stresses a crop. Stress of any kind slows that plant down and we lose valuable days that we need to continue to build that factory to keep that plant functioning. This is what Relax was built for. Crops stress less with the right amount of nutrition and amino acids, and we aid in regulating the hormones in the plant. This is some thermal imaging from this year. A corn crop sprayed with Relax, and a crop sprayed that wasn't sprayed. So treated versus the non-treated. You're seeing about close to a 5-6 degree difference in canopy temperature. That's a huge piece of stress. Guys, I challenge everybody when I give this talk, if there's one thing that every grower in here can buy today and use and be successful with, put this in your herbicide pass. I can't think of many things that are more stressful than a herbicide on a crop, right? It doesn't matter if that crop can metabolize that chemistry. You take a Roundup Ready soybean and you spray Roundup on it, that crop is stressing from that application of glyphosate until it metabolizes it and moves it out. The idea here is we've got ethylene suppressors and we've got amino acids to suppress the ethylene from the stress of the herbicide to help build the function, rebuild the enzymes, rebuild the proteins that keep that plant functioning after that herbicide pass. This has been one of those things that anecdotally we had guys calling and couldn't believe after a post-herbicide pass last year how fast their crops took to growing again. Because generally there's a 7 to 14 day period, maybe 7 to 10 day period where crop growth basically ceases or it stops as that plant metabolizes that chemistry. We can help to push that through. And then stage 4. This is where we got to refuel. Because we think about this, especially in a corn crop, or I should say especially in a soybean crop, but a corn crop also, much of the plant's fertility is still required during the reproductive phase, meaning that plant still has to take up the majority of its nutrients after it goes reproductive. The late vegetative stage primes your crops and soil for peak profitability, focusing on root size and root depth. So why refueling matters? As sugar production, rooting development, and microbial activity slow down, essential nutrients and biological activity begin to dip. So the later we get in to the season, especially as we get into reproduction, our root growth starts to cease. And if that root growth starts to slow down, our sugar production slows down. So that cycling we've been talking about in the soil slows down later in the season. That means the crop is running out of fuel. Refueling is critical to maintaining fertility and growth during the later stages where yield is produced. So we think about this. Guys, you could put any number of products in here. We could talk about nitrogen and late applications of nitrogen and all that. The big thing we're talking about here is BioCast Max from a perspective of using that biological tool to release nutrients like phosphorus, to increase the efficiency of the nitrogen that we have applied. We are trying to keep some plant available nutrients there. We focus so much on phosphorus early in the season or in furrow for a little bit of a boost. Guys, the majority of our phosphorus is taken up after tassel. And when you start to look at soil and tissue, you'll see, by and large, you'll see phosphorus levels start to drop as we go into reproduction. We need to boost that, and one way to do that is to release some of that nutrient from the soil. And the best time to do it is during these stages, simply because of that amount of sugar that's being produced. When that crop is growing, those exudates are going strong, and that late vegetative release those nutrients and get more of that ready for that plant. So what do we know? We've talked about this. 50 to 70% of all fertility is still needed. Once we hit reproduction, like I said, sugar production slows down. Rooting development slows down once exudation slows down. So microbial activity slows down because exudation is slowed down and rooting activity is slowed down. So what we want to do is we want to fill in the gap there, and we want to re-stimulate that soil and get that soil functioning again. Guys, this is a chart, maybe a little bit hard to follow, but if you can see the two lines at the top that are going up and they trail off together, it's just data points mapping root exudation and sugar creation. The idea where you see that yellow arrow is if we can keep that plant healthier, if we can keep that plant functioning, and we can take that, before that dip, if we can take it deeper into reproduction, that's more nutrients we're keeping available to that plant. And so what I've got here is 47% difference in WEOC and CEC. Essentially, that's more of that available carbon. So we're increasing that. Increasing CO2 respiration. Guys, this is a simple measure. We measure in a soil test the soil breathing. CO2 respiration is what CO2 is being released from that crop. Guys, where's the stomates at on a corn plant, on a soybean plant, on basically every plant on earth? Where are they at? They're on the bottom side of the leaves, right? Maybe that was by grand design because the CO2 that's being released from the soil is also a growth promoter for that plant. Why wouldn't they be on the bottom? As the CO2 is coming up from the soil, the plant can capture it. Guys, carbon is a driver of fertility. It's the best fertilizer there is. If we can make our soils increase that CO2 respiration, make our soils breathe more, we will have healthier plants. The last stage, final stage, move. What we're trying to do here is essentially to keep sugars moving. Now we're less focused on moving them into the soils. Now where do we want our sugars to go? Into that ear, into that pod, into that seed head. And so you think about this. This picture was a trial that was done. We're essentially looking at where if a corn plant loses the lower third of its leaves or the upper third of its leaves, how much is the yield reduced? Well, I think we all believe that if we lose the top of our canopy, our yield goes down drastically. But why is that? Because we've always been led that this is where our photosynthetic activity is happening, and I would agree with that. But part of that is a lot of data that we're doing, and I don't have the slides here today. Again, come by the booth and the guys will talk to you about it. But what we're seeing is as we pull tissue samples, maybe as we go later in the season, we're not pulling the right leaves because those nutrients go to the top and they come back down, is what we're seeing. That's why when we lose the top of that plant, that's why the top of that plant is so important, because we want those nutrients to go up and come back down. So we think about this, amino. I talked about this with relax, and it's very similar. So the reduction of two primary things that drive the majority of sugar movement, nitrates and nitrogen. The more nitrate we have in our plant late, the more we kind of choke up that plant. We don't get the movement of those nutrients. We need moly in our system, and so amino has a dose of moly in it, and amino acids that help the plant convert nitrates to a plant-friendly protein version of nitrogen. At the end of the day, nitrogen's job is to become a protein. It's not to make the plant look green. It's to become a protein. There's a process of going through that. When we have too much nitrogen in the plant, not enough moly and amino acids, we never get those conversions to happen to get into that amino acid form to become that protein. That's one thing amino helps with. With stress, again, amino acids, in this case paired with cobalt, allows plants to protect against stress naturally. Cobalt as a nutrient is an amazing stress mitigator. So also, amino acids like proline help the plant cells maintain osmotic balance under stress conditions, supporting continued sugar transport and nutrient movement to the developing kernels. So what we're trying to do with these amino acids is to keep building those functions, increase those enzymes, and they support the synthesis. So it says right here, amino acids support the synthesis or repair proteins and enzymes that help the plant recover from damage caused by stress, and this reduces the risks of kernel abortion or poor kernel fill. That's what we're trying to do. We're just trying to keep those sugars moving in that plant with those amino acids. So we think about this. I got 8 minutes. Let's see if I can do it. Plant health and yield combination. Guys, we think about this. For every dollar of fertilizer that we buy, in this case nitrogen, and this is, I got my sources down there, but I didn't put them in white apparently, but they're there. This is university data. For every dollar of nitrogen that we apply, we get 25 to 40 cents back. There's some new data that says maybe we get 50 cents back. Phosphorus, for every dollar of phosphorus that we apply, we get 15 to 20 cents. Potassium, 30 to 50 cents. On down the line. So for every dollar we spend, that's how much actually makes it into the plant. How much money y'all spending on fertilizer? A lot, right? Right, especially right now. We want to improve this efficiency piece because I talked about this at the beginning. Remember what I talked about? Every company here has got something they want to bolt onto your system. Guys, I want to make your system more efficient. I want to improve the efficiency of your fertilizer. So we think about this. I just ran through our 5 stages and about the products that fit within our 5 stages, but we think about this. If I come to your farm and I start talking to you about products, we look at them as extras and we ask about ROI. Do we ever put fertilizer under the same microscope that you put the things that are coming and getting sold as pairing with that? Do they ever get put under the same microscope? Because we're told that fertilizer is a need. And it is a need, right? But maybe we don't need as much of it as what we've always been told that we need. So as a grower, when you're thinking about your system, is there anything on this list that's also important? Is nutrient efficiency important? Is stand establishment and vigor important? Soil health, seed weight, better roots, micronutrients, stress mitigation, residue management. Aren't those things just as important as your standard NP and K? And I would argue that yes, we still can't achieve our maximum goals if we're not improving a lot of these other things as well, and that's what we're here to help do. This is just pictures. Stress mitigations and thermal images and the things that we're doing because stress takes so much yield. I love this picture right here, the top right picture. You see that's corn plants right next to each other. Guys, that's V10, V12 corn hitting me in the shoulder. That's the BioBoost effect right there. How often does something that you apply on the seed or in the furrow show you benefits when that corn's this tall? We don't see it, right? We're mitigating that stress. And this is, I can tell you, this is in Southeast Illinois. This is a dry, barren piece of dirt. Sorry, Greg, I know that's yours, but it's what it is. Looking at those thermal images and looking at how we reduce those temperatures within that canopy, reducing that stress, keeping those crops functioning as we go. So at the end of the day, all the things that we've been talking about, if we focus on those things as well, if we just focus on improving soil health and improving the healthier the plants, the healthier the soil, at the end of the day, what we do is we maximize our yield. It's not about just bolting on a product into something you're already doing and hoping to get a response. It's about utilizing these products to fit into the system to improve the system from beginning to end. And so, at the end of the day, back to that survey, one of the biggest things that came out of that survey was we had the highest customer satisfaction out of those 520 some growers. Our goal is out carrying the competition. We want to be with you from beginning to end to figure out these things and to help them be more efficient on your farm. Shameless plug. Come to the booth. We'll be recording Cropcast. If you're interested and you want to sit down and sit on the podcast, then by all means, hit me up. If you're interested in agronomy information that you're probably not hearing anyplace else, Apple, Spotify, any place where you get your podcast, Cropcast is there and it's growing. We're getting a lot of new followers on this because we're talking about agronomy from way outside the box at times. Guys, we mentioned it. We're at booth 4365. We'd love it if you come by. We've got in-booth presentations all 3 days starting this afternoon. So we'll have smaller presentations, maybe keying on specific things I talked about here today. We've got a meeting room if you want to sit down and visit. We've got 2 meeting rooms if you want to sit down and visit. And again, we'll be recording the Cropcast the next couple days. So I appreciate everybody coming out. Thanks so much for your attention. Is there any questions? I got 3 minutes to spare. That's not like me.